Oh, did I start two? Okay, let me close one. Um, doesn't say I'm doing two. I don't know what's going on. I try to use the beta video, and I think if I do that, it does two instead of just one. I'm not sure. Maybe what I should do. Oh, you can hear me, right? I gave you a wrench. Don't you feel special? Thank you. Oh, one of these days I'll get it right. At least I'm trying, right? I've got to do something real quick. That's not going to be very easy to see. I have to do it this way. Hi. That's not going to help either. Now I just have black on my fingers. Okay. Well, anyway, neither here nor there. I should have been tested by the man in Texas, right? I'm hoping a few more people come in before I start
chatting my stories. Spring has sprung here, and so the runny nose has also. Thank you. Am I going to do a phone call instead of well, that wouldn't be. I just oh my gosh, you guys are so crazy. Well, I might as well get started with a story that I forgot to tell last week about weird things that happen when you're driving. And what happened was we had, lived in the country. Oh, thanks. I have Mona over there, and I have King Tut over there, big, huge posters. And Mona's sticking her neck out really far nowadays. It's like, and it looks like, yeah, King Tut still has a stupid bird on his head as well as the cobra. So, hey, good to see you. Anyway, one last story about weird stuff that happens when you drive. My dad was one of the last of the cowboys and the countryman. He was a machinist. He was a farrier. He was a blacksmith. His father was also skilled in a lot of things like that. And he was driving the same country road he always drives on the way home. And they're very dark. I have a cat meowing back there. It's very dark and everything. There's no street lights. And hopefully Ben gets the cat. Anyway, he's driving down this dark road, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever been in the country where there's no lights. Most of us are used to light pollution. No, she just wants in Ben's room because she's a big baby. She just got fed some wonderful food. Oh, good to hear that, Bubbles. Yeah, I had sleeping lately. It's just been, I wake up at 5, I wake up at 6. It doesn't matter. Get the cat. She's crying in the hall. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, my father's driving down a very dark country road, and it's one of these little roads that you see in the foothills of California back in the day. And he's driving along. He sees this old cottage house, country house, old style, very small. And as he's driving by, you can't go too fast. He sees a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothes open the front door and toss the water out of the big pot, but that kind of thing, basin, I guess. And I'm sorry, Tammy, you can take a nap if you want. So he sees this happening. He's thinking, well, that's funny. I don't remember seeing this house there before. And he drives home. He's tired, so he's like, okay, whatever. And the next time, he's driving that road again, the house isn't there. And he says, all there's left there is like a burned out foundation. So there's a little time slip story for you, apparently, where he saw a little piece of the past as he was driving home. And I'll silence my phone. Shut up. Okay, so that's the last of my highway stories. Today, my daughter envies my ability to manifest things. Now, I remember watching The Secret along with many of you people, and it doesn't really work it isn't that it works the way they say. There's been lots of books out on it and everything, and they say, oh, you can get what you want in life, blah, 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 blah. Well, it works, but it kind of works in a way you don't expect it. And it has to do with a sincere desire, usually, not a selfish one. So if you're wishing for more money because you want to go to Vegas or something, that's probably not going to work. But if you need something in your life that's really important to have, that you really need, and you make a heartfelt request, out loud is best. Oddly enough, you don't have to do it out loud, but if you just say it just once and then don't think about it anymore, you don't dwell on it. And that's kind of how it works. That you get things you need, or things that whatever powers that be are out there think will benefit you, and that you will do good things with it and help other people with it, it'll come to you. Or if it's something that's supposed to be a skill or talent you're supposed to enlarge, or things like that. Well, I was studying to be OTA, occupational therapy assistant. I collected a lot of things at Goodwill and other thrift stores that I was looking for, and I would just think, I really need this, and 2 or 3 weeks later I'd go and there it would be. I wanted to have an apples to apples game, and they're like $30 or more to buy the big party size, and I said, oh, I'm not paying that. And so I requested it, and I went to Goodwill, and I'm sitting there looking at the side of board games and stuff. I'm looking at the other shelves, and some little voice says, turn around. I'm not kidding you. And I turn around, and there it is. There's the apple. I'm like, well, duh. I said I should have known it was here. I should never doubt the universe, I guess. Oh, sleep paralysis. Oh, that's horrible. Usually you don't have a lot of that after you grow up. It's pretty common. But I think there's two kinds of sleep paralysis. One is just you're still asleep. Your brain is still paralyzing you because it thinks you're dreaming. It doesn't want you to go thinking you can fly, things like that. But there are other cases where it's a little less cut and dried. So yeah, ask for protection for sure. When things bother me, I guess I just have an attitude because I get angry, and it's like, I always feel that non-physical things should have better manners, and if they bother me inappropriately, they're gonna, I'm gonna get angry with them. You know, I have a rep on the other side of being bitchy, I guess. Anyway, I got my kitty. Anyway, so the apples appeared, and that was nice. And a lot of things I found if I was looking for them, or things I would find that when I was not sure what I needed, and it was something like looking for a gift or something. It would appear, I said, well, that's perfect for this person. It's like, and I think that those of us who are experiencing Mandela effect kind of stuff, I think we're starting to realize that in some ways we create our reality because, we're not creating the Mandela effect per se, but I think we can create things we need more easily than we used to. And I think people who are affected can do it better, personally. From when I've talked to people that aren't affected don't have it happen to them as much. So I don't know if there's something to do with that. I have no idea. Okay. I write things down because otherwise I forget. I wanted to have some lovebirds. And they're not cheap. And I had kids, and I was a stay-at-home mom, so we went without things because I thought being at home with my kids was more important than having things. Uh, but like when other people would get something, it would be years before we got it too. Like flat screen TVs. Everyone's had them before we did. Anyway, one day I came home and I was working at that time because my husband, I think, was on disability still for various reasons. He was off work for almost 5 years, and I did have to work. I came home and I see something yellow up our elm tree, up at the top. I have good distance vision, um, and I'm looking, and it's a little yellow bird. And I'm one of those people that talks to animals. I'm like Dr. Doolittle. I always say hello, hi, little fella, and I said, "Hi, birdie, aren't you pretty?" And I kid you not, it flies down and lands on my head. I am not. My kids will swear as well. This is what happened. I walk in the house. It's on my head. This yellow bird, yellow love. It's one of those lovebirds come in different colorations. From the heavily dark kind and the lighter kind. It was like a pastel. Um, Lovebird is gorgeous, and it was obviously tamed. And I go in the house and it flies to my son. And for a while we were able to have it on our finger and everything, but we have cats. So we couldn't let it fly around the house. And I got a little cage for it. And I had it in a temporary cage because I used to raise parakeets. And I kept it, and I finally got a cage for it. My daughter says, "You want me to put the temporary cage away?" I said, "No, there's another one coming." And she says, "What?" I said, "Yeah, there's another one coming. I asked for two." And you can probably hear it in the background. And about a week and a half later, apparently my able to nurse birds back to health, which I've done several times, was known. And this lady had rescued this lovebird from a cat. And she brought it to me, and I nursed it back to health. Now I had two lovebirds. I didn't put them together because one was recovering. I never did put them together. So but I do believe they were male and female. But I mean, my daughter says, "How did you know?" I said, "I just know these things. I just know. I mean, how do I know? I don't know how I know. I just know." So when the female finally died, her name was Mango. And the boy is still with us, and they live a long time. We've had him for 20 years practically. And his name is Papaya. And he's a happy little bird. And he's right where we walk by him and say hello. And if he hears the birds outside, he sings. When it's a little warmer, I'll probably hang him outside to hang with the other birds. Okay, so get off, cat. Get off. Get off my thing. Oh. Silly. You're silly. Okay. Next story. If I request a parking place and I do it in enough time before I go somewhere, almost always, because I have sciatica issues because of my scoliosis. So, and yeah, you will get right back on it. Sometimes I have trouble walking, too far if I have a flare up of my fibro or whatever's going on with me. I don't know what it is. They're trying to figure that out. I'll have a parking place that's really close, and that's just one of the things that happens a lot for me. And I'm very grateful for that. I've had books that I was looking for appear, or I'd have trouble. I think I'll save that for another time, about the weird experience I've had with museums and books. Let me tell you about my husband was moving, his company was moving from a place near us to Rancho Cordova, which is, about 5, 6 miles away. And I had been looking, because I love to do art, I had been looking all over town for a drawing table. I wanted a drawing table and a light box. Now, a light box is so that you can copy your own pictures, or you can copy off other pictures and help you enhance your illustrations or what, because I write too. And in order to illustrate, I'm not that amazing of an artist, but for illustrating, you can do a copying kind of thing from real photographs and stuff. It's perfectly acceptable. It's not high art or anything I'd compete with. It'd be something for my stories and my poetry. So I'm looking everywhere, and it's like, wow, they are like flimsy and they're expensive. It's like, I'm just going, $250, huh? Really? For a drawing table? It's like, and it was all just really flimsy wood, very flimsy. I'd taken mechanical drawing, and I had really loved the drafting tables that we used, and that was like, why can't I find something more like that? Well, guess what? My husband calls me on the phone. Hey, would you like to have a drawing table and a light box? I hadn't told him I'd been looking for those. Yeah, right. And this drawing table is is a drafting table, because he works for an engineering firm. And it folds up. It's the right size. It's amazing. It's sturdy. It's high quality. The light box was handmade, and it's incredibly good. And I'm just like going, wow, thank you. How about that? Now, that was several years ago, but now something just manifested for me the last 2 weeks, a week and a half. My daughter invited me to a girls' night out, and both her friends are between her age and mine. They're both middle-aged, late 40s, early 50s. One's a nurse. I don't know what the other one does. The other one's affected, by the way. So we're going to have some conversations, because she was saying, why do people get upset when I remember things different? I said, oh, we'll have a talk about that one. Anyway, this lady, I almost didn't go to this little party. I thought, I need to do more with my daughter, and I need to get out of the house, and I need to socialize with different kinds of people. I feel this is important for me. I'm a social introvert. I could stay home all the time if I let myself and never leave the house, never leave my property. Really, that would be fine. So I went. And we have a wonderful time. They're lovely company. The gal that's affected, I knew before, and the other one was a nurse that I just met. And she was one of those people, instead of the ADHD on the inside, she's ADHD on the outside. She's loud. She's hard of hearing. She's boisterous, and she'll be talking about something and then lose her train of thought. I said, I sure hope that doesn't happen on the job. But this was her Friday. She works as an EMT. She works with the EMTs, fire department, and as a medic, and she's an RN, and she works 3 24-hour days in a 5-day period, and then she's off 4 days. And this was her Friday, and she was a little burnout. Okay. But anyway, we find out that her sound system is all a mess because they added Roku, and that she didn't know what to do about it. My daughter and I couldn't figure it out. And I said, well, listen, I'll have my son Matthew come over. He does this for people all the time, helps them out with their tech, and he's a programmer, and he's so good-hearted and wonderful. My little ginger boy, not little, but he's a big ginger boy now. Anyway, he goes and wants to take a look at it. So we make an appointment to see her. And he's got it all figured out, except she needs to have a optic cable. And she's ordered that. When it comes in, he'll put that in. But he got almost everything exactly the way she wanted. The only thing that she couldn't do was something to do with getting the speakers to work with a certain one of her system things. So anyway, and she goes and she looks at me like, "Do you garden?" Just like that, out of the blue. "Do you garden?" I said, "Yeah, I love to garden." And the week before, I had just been saying to myself, I wish I had a garden plot with some decent soil, like a community garden that wouldn't cost much, that I could, grow some things, because I have rock, really. And I have to grow everything in pots except for a few trees and shrubs that manage to get through the heavy clay and rock that I have. And she says, "Do you garden?" I said, "Well, I love to, but I don't really have a place that works very well." She says, "I have a 15 by 30 plot in the yard, and you're welcome to use it. We'll do a garden together, you and your daughter and I, if you'll just come over on my days off and do your work there and visit the dogs." She has 2 lovely dogs that get lonely because she's gone for 24 hours. And she says, "If you go over there, keep them company, I'd have less guilt when I'm working. And you'll have a garden to work on." How's that for manifesting? She manifested me and I manifested her. We just sort of, it happened all at once. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, for the coup de grace, the last story. Kitty, what did you do with my paper? Now he's laying on my arm. Come on. There we go. All right, here we go. Now, I recommend that you write things down if something unusual happens to you, because believe me, you'll forget some details. This really happened back in 2004. And I had been looking for a jade medallion. And this medallion that I was looking for, I looked everywhere. I looked online, I looked everywhere. I went to jewelry stores and looked, and I wanted one that had a phoenix on it, because the yin and yang, or yin and yang, I think it was always yin and yang for me, has the 2 colors, like this. But when they depict animals, the phoenix is the male, the female, and the dragon is the male. I don't know which way it goes. Anyway, so you'll see the jade medallions with the dragon and the phoenix, or just the dragon on it, but never just the phoenix. It's like discrimination against phoenixes, I guess, because they're not real. But dragons are, I guess. Anyway, but I looked, and it was very challenging, and I couldn't find it anywhere. It was the 4th of July in 2004. And our family went on a trip. Now, don't ask me why I would go on a trip on the 4th of July. But we were going to go to, we went to Rohnert Park north of Santa Rosa, which is north of San Francisco. It's halfway between San Francisco and the Oregon border, somewhere in there. So because a few years before, we saw fireworks at Petaluma on the 4th, near the 4th of July or 4th of July. And they were really lovely. They shot them over the water. They have a little pond there. It was quite nice. We arrived on Friday night, and Sunday was the 4th. We went to the beach on that Saturday, had a wonderful time. And when Sunday came, we dutifully went to Petaluma, only to discover they had the fireworks the night before, so we missed the fireworks. All is not lost, though. Crestfallen and woebegone, we were almost ready to give up. And then I got a bright idea. I don't know where I got this idea. It was, which was later on not considered very bright, to go to San Francisco for the 4th. Now, San Francisco is a big city, and they get a lot of people that come and, to go there, because it's such an amazing place to go. It's one of those like international kind of cities where, there's just a charm about San Francisco that's hard to explain. I wouldn't want to live there, mind you, but I love visiting. That's okay. Um, anyway, we arrived late in the day in Sausalito, and the way we like to do it, because driving in the city is a little bit crazy, we go to Sausalito across the bay, catch the ferry, which is a lot of fun too. And it's a lovely a ride at night when you can see all the lights of San Francisco as you're leaving too. So we're heading to San Francisco because it's such a hassle. And the buses make it easy to commute in the city. You know, the Muni is very inexpensive and it takes you everywhere. So you don't really need to have your car there normally. The trip was great. The kids enjoyed the ride in the ferry, and it was very sunny. It was a beautiful day. We asked the people on the ferry how late we could take the ride back, and they tell us like 9 or something like that. And we said, "Oh, cool. That sounds okay. That's fine." We walked the boardwalk along the Fisherman's Wharf, and enjoying this. Because it's 4th of July, there's just a plethora of street performers and music and vendors. It seemed like endless stalls of vendors all the way clear up to Ghirardelli Square. Just a whole line of them go up a hill to Ghirardelli Square. Nothing's flat in San Francisco. Everything's a hill. And I'm looking at every single vendor for a jade medallion with a phoenix on it. I got my kids' shark teeth to wear, you know. What do you want? I want a shark tooth. I said, isn't that everybody's choice? I guess it's a kid thing. And I'm looking, and I must have looked at 20 stalls. And we press on, we go up the hill, and there's this little man of Chinese descent, adorable short man, about middle-aged. And he looks at me, I look at him, and I see these things hanging back there. And I'm going to look at those. I go back there and I reach out, and the first one I bring to my hand is my jade medallion with a phoenix on it. It's hard to tell what it is. I said, I want this. And he looked at me. I looked at it. It's like he knew that I knew that he knew that I knew. It's one of those things where, how did he know? How did I know it was there? I knew it was there. I knew it was there. And he was just the funniest person. And we just laughed. And he didn't speak much English, but he was funny. You know, he said it was a secret how you could adjust the neck. So he turned his back and adjusted it for me. It's a secret, you know. It was just, he was the most charming person. And it's like he was waiting for me, and he was like, when I arrived, it was like, oh, there you are. He knew I was coming. I've had this happen a few times. So the phoenix, I don't know if you can tell, it's flying and it's blowing out smoke out of its mouth. It has a beak, and it has those funny feathers, you know, that are long and sort of plumy, which the phoenix sometimes has. So that was, and on the back it's got like I Ching or something symbols on the back. I don't know what all that means. I have yet to figure that out, but you know. Maybe I can show you. There it is. Can you see it? The bird rising from the ashes. Yeah. How's that for manifesting? Boom. And it only cost me $20. Booyah. Yep. And that's just the basic ones that I can remember of my stories. Oh, by the way, the epilogue of that story is they were using the ferries for people to go see the fireworks. They were paying extra, so we couldn't go back on the ferry. The guy had forgotten that on the 4th of July it's different. So we had to hike to a hotel, which was quite a hike because there was no traffic allowed and no buses. So we had to hike to a hotel, and we were able to get a ride to Sausalito in a taxi for free because we were just a family with some kids. It's like, and we all look so tired. Kids are like, from walking so much, and it's like, sometimes simulated reality. Yeah, there's something weird going on, right? It's got to be something's going on. But how come I have an influence? Why? My daughter says, "How do you do that? How do you manifest this stuff?" I said, I couldn't tell you why it works for me and not for some people. And if you guys have anything interesting that you've that you've seen or done, that's kind of weird. Yeah, it's your turn. I think we'll do ghost stories next week. How about that? Simulated reality. Was it always? You do. You do have to pay attention. I think that's one thing we've learned is that the people who pay attention are the ones that get the attention from the universe, I guess you might say. They know that if they manifest it for you, that you're going to find it. uh, oh, yeah. I've had that happen a few times. My son Matthew, he's a big guy, but he's very light on his feet. And he's very quiet. I think he can mask his energy or something. But we were in Walmart once, and he walked up behind one of the employees, scared them shitless because he didn't hear him walking up to him. Oh, that was funny. Yeah. Well, I think that I don't know if we carry a certain vulnerability or approachability, maybe, that others don't. Um, I was going to Panda Express to pick up food for my family. They had ordered it. And this little girl, she was probably 3. She sees me and gives me the biggest grin, like she knows me. I kid you not. That was a smile of a kid seeing a favorite relative. I swear to you. It's like I'm just going, wow. I haven't had a smile like that from a kid in a long time. I was at the Impressionism showing at the De Young Museum in San Francisco several years ago, and looking at. I went there so I could see the Van Gogh, which are pretty amazing, and all the other Impressionist artists and stuff. Um, And this little toddler and this baby in this woman's arms wanted me to hold her. It's like, I'm everybody's grandma, apparently. Well, you're approachable, Bubbles. That's nice. Um, you probably exude that approachability and that kindness. Um, People approach me also, and I'm always smiling when I'm in public because I live this way. Um, People will treat you better if you're smiling. Plus, I'm so happy that they let me out of the house. It's like, oh, I'm out of the house. You're gonna sit on my book, okay? Um, I have a story. Years and years ago, I went to um, what's the name of that place? Indian Grinding Rock Park. Indian Grinding Rock is considered a sacred area by the natives, and they have replicas of their buildings and things there. It's really nice. It's not commercialized. Has a little museum. It's very respectful. They have a huge area fenced off that has this huge thing. I mean, it's a huge area of granite with holes that have been used to grind corn, supposedly. I mean, there's like, 100 holes. Well, you have to protect your energies. You learn to do that. Um, I feel like my jade medallion helps me with that. Also, hematite helps me with that. Plus, visualization of protecting my aura and whatever you want to call it, or energies. You have to kind of do that. If you go to any place where there's negative people, you got to put a bubble with a mirror on it. And it might annoy people, but it'll protect you. Sometimes you got to bring out the big guns. Yeah, a lot of us are empathic and sensitive, and people will, they'll suck your energy, and you'll find when you go out in certain areas of the public that you'll just feel exhausted when you're done, especially shopping and stuff sometimes. My son Matthew's a real empath, and he can't handle being in public places much. Anyway, my kids and my husband went down the creek, and there were quite a few people in the park. It was not like it was empty, but it wasn't horribly full. It was beautiful. It's up in the foothills of California. It was a beautiful day. And there was this big tree. I'll post a picture of it sometime. Big tree near the creek. And opposite that was a trail, a little footpath. And on the other side of the footpath from where the tree was a little section of wildflowers where you could hear there were so many bees, you could hear them buzzing. Oh gosh. You must have dry air where you are, Bubbles. It's been a little bit that way, but it's been rainy, so not today. Anyway, so my leg's giving me trouble as usual. So I sit down. I ask the tree. I ask the grandmother oak tree. I mean, it's like 6 feet across. Huge. And I don't know if you've ever been next to these really old oak trees. The energy that they have is just lovely. It's very healing. I think I like trees a lot. And I sat down. I asked grandmother tree, could I sit down here and rest a minute? And I sat down. Because it was a sacred site, I felt it was important that I ask permission. And strange thing started to happen. before I sat down, I could hear my kids. I could hear all kinds of things, people. I sat down. Everything became very quiet. All I could hear was the bees. And I'm just sitting there very quiet. I hear the bees. And then I hear the scurrying sound. And I look across a tree that's like 10 feet away, another oak tree. And I hear this little fence lizard crawling down this tree. Now, my hearings was better then than it is now because I have this tinnitus or this ringing now. But I mean, normally you don't hear a little lizard crawling down a tree that well, but I could hear it. I could hear every creature that was there. It was just surreal. And I felt connected to everything. It was, I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was a beautiful thing. It was really a life-changing experience for me. And, you know, I remember I wrote it down and everything, the story. And then I'm going to Old Sacramento, and that's you know, things have been restored. It's still pretty commercialized, but there's a lot of things that are restored there. And there's a Native American shop there, which has got cool stuff in it. And I've always loved Native American stuff. I know I have some in me. The genetics, you know, I don't have a lot in me, you know, probably from the French Canadian, who knows where else. Anyway, just a little bit. But I was trying to research my roots a little bit more. And there was a Native man that was running the store. He was one of the workers in the store. And he was about 50 some years. I was 45 and he was like 50 something, maybe 10 years older than me. And he had black hair with gray in it and green eyes. And we got talking. And he talked about how he wasn't always accepted because he had green eyes instead of brown. They didn't really like the fact that he got a master's degree in something and, you know, that he wasn't using his native name. Well, he went finally back to his native name. And he became a traditional dancer, if you've ever seen them with all the feathers and stuff that they do. And I told him about my experience at Indian Grinding Rock. And the minute I told him that, he starts telling me the story of his life from his birth to the present day. Everything. And including the fact that his father killed himself, his mother abandoned him, raised by his uncle, born with a heart condition, you know, went on his vision quest as a kid and came home early because he was scared. Takes people on vision quests, was married, but his wife and his child were killed in a car accident. He was at the 60s protest on Alcatraz. They were trying to reclaim Alcatraz as theirs, the natives were, because it was considered a sacred place to them. And, you know, the white people put a prison on it and totally messed up the energy of that place. They were trying to get it back. He was there. I mean, he was like, well, something's funny. Benjamin's laughing. Anyway, you know, and it was so weird. And he says, after he's done, and he tells me, you know, he's had this girlfriend and that girlfriend. He's been living. He's found his sister finally. His sister and him were adopted different people, so he couldn't find his sister. Found his sister. I think he lives back in the Midwest now with her. But he says, I've been waiting for you. I'd see him off and on. Every time I came to Old Sacramento, he'd be standing outside the shop waiting for me. This happened like 3 times, and I'd be coming. I never would tell him I was coming to the shop or to Old Sacramento, but he'd be there. I'd turn around the corner, he'd be looking right at me. It's like he was there, like waiting for me. And he said he was waiting for me. He says, because you're a sign that it's time. And I just like, time? He says, yes, it's time to get the cultural center started up again. They tried before and didn't have the funds and the land to get the Native American Cultural Center going in the Sacramento area. He says, well, you're a sign that it's time for me to quit this job and get going on that. Get my lawyer friends started on filing the paperwork and all that stuff. Now, this was quite a while ago that this happened, 15 plus years. Well, I just heard a few months ago that the Native American Council had procured, through donation and some funds, a place in West Sacramento for their Native American Cultural Center. And I'm thinking, I had a hand in that. How odd is that? How strange. I mean, these are the sort of things that happen to me. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anybody have an idea? He said Native Americans love redheads, by the way. Oh, my goodness. Time special. Well, that's usually not what that means. Maybe that's how you mean it. I don't know. I'm special. Well, that's not the only experiences I've had, but yeah, kind of weird, huh? Well, anyway, next week I think we'll do some ghost stories. My family's ghost stories, my ghost stories. If you have any ghost stories, you can email me and I'll tell them if you don't want to tell them yourself. Or just be ready to share them in chat if you'd like. So sometimes easier if you email them to me, then I can just read them and say it's from you or not from anonymous, rather than having you have to type it in the chat. So if you want to, it's skookum65@gmail.com. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, weird stuff. I have a haunted life or something. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think a lot of you, if you think about it, the cat taken off my thing, messed my hair up. If you think about it, you've had probably experiences, you just didn't think about them. You just probably brushed them off and said, oh, this is, I just imagined it. Or sometimes it takes a while for our brains to get used to the idea of he's probably watching Colbert or Trevor Noah or one of those guys. Anyway, so pay attention to things. Just like if you're Mandela affected, you pay attention to changes in your world that weren't there before the last shift because you've moved to a new timeline. Oh, I know it sounds crazy. People think you're crazy. And it's like, well, if you're not experiencing it, it's hard. How do you explain it, to people? They don't understand. You can't really expect them to. So there you go. Did you have fun like I did? So I think I'm going to sign off so I don't take up any more of your time, unless you want to chat with each other. Then I can just sort of go. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I appreciate people that I can share my stories with. My kids will also have these, so that's one reason I'm doing them. So my children and my progeny will have these stories. Thank you for coming in, Bubbles and Scott and anyone else who's here. Okay. Well, be cool. Toodles poodles. See you next week. Bye bye.